afternoon. It's Friday, September 11, with the 12 o'clock newscast here on NewsTalk 93 FM. I'm Kayla Wright. Coming up in this newscast, former Jamaica Labour Party councillor charged with rape, Don Creary, and his alleged accomplice set to appear in court today. Mount Rosser toll increase is now in effect. JLP anxious to see the outcome of the audit of the National People's Cooperative Bank of Jamaica, and Economic Program Oversight Committee urges government not to drag out the calling of general elections. And now the details. Former Jamaica Labour Party councillor for the Caston Division, Don Creary, and his alleged accomplice, Shanique Williams, are to appear in court today in relation to rape allegations. Their attorney, Tom Tavares Finson, says he will be making a bail application when his clients appear in the corporate area RM court. Creary is charged with rape, while Williams is charged with aiding and abetting and sexual touching. They were both arrested and charged on Tuesday. The police say in 2013, Creary and Williams took a 15-year-old girl to an apartment in St. Mary where she was allegedly given alcoholic beverages and sexually assaulted. They further say following the incident, the teen told her mother what happened and a report was made to the police. Subsequent investigations led to the arrest of the two. A Kingston-based software engineer has been charged with fraud after failing to provide charged with fraudulent conversion. According to the police, in June of this year, Dennis was contracted to develop software applications on behalf of the complainant, who allegedly paid him $197,000. Dennis allegedly failed to create the applications and gave several excuses when the complainant made queries. A report was made to the authorities, and following investigations, Dennis was arrested and charged. He is scheduled to appear in court on October 6. The second suspect, who was allegedly caught on camera killing car dealer Robert Mendez at his business place in St. Andrew in April of last year, is now in police custody. Head of the Criminal Investigation Branch, Assistant Commissioner Elon Powell, says Bertram Jenkins was deported from Canada early yesterday morning. Jenkins, who was held in Canada nearly a month after Mendez was killed, appeared in a Canadian court for immigration violations. Mendez, who operated Payless Car Mart off Maxfield Avenue, was shot dead in his office. Another suspect, 43-year-old John Jarrett, was charged in the case. Effective today, motorists using the North-South Highway will pay increased toll rates. The increased rates are for the Linstead Bypass, the Maneague leg of the Highway 2000 North-South Link Toll Road, also called the Mount Rosser Bypass. The Jamaica North-South Highway Company says the change in rates is due to a significant increase in maintenance cost. The new rates for Class 1 vehicles is $360, up from $200, $715 up from $420 for Class 2 vehicles, $1,075 up from $1,000 for Class 3 vehicles, and for Class 4 vehicles such as bikes, it is $180 up from $160. You're listening to news on NewsTalk 93 FM. The time is now 5 minutes after 12. Opposition spokesperson on finance Audley Shaw says he's waiting to see the outcome of the missing funds at the National People's Cooperative Bank of Jamaica (NPCB) when it is discussed in an audit report next week.
That is contained in an audit report, which we are now being told will be discussed with the Minister of Agriculture next week, Wednesday. And I'm waiting to see if this government intends to keep that report away from the public view in the same way that they have done the report on the health sector. So I'm waiting to see what happens after the report is sent to the Minister of Agriculture and the responses to the audit reported to the Minister next week.
Speaking on the evening edition last night, Shaw also made certain revelations regarding managers and board members who he says were lending monies to themselves. As a result, he says some $600 million could not be accounted for.
What we do know, and as you might be aware, I put into the public purview from as early as May of this year, there was a sort of an incestuous relationship that had developed where the managers and board members were lending money to themselves, and among other things, there's about $600 million that can be accounted for. You know also that the DBJ had to write off over $1 billion in loans. And, of course, much to my surprise, the DBJ, apparently having written off that loan, decided to exit their monitoring relationship with the PC banks several years ago.
Shaw also says things had gotten worse to the point where managers were suspended from the NPCB.
And having done that, things have now gotten worse at the PC bank. And farmers tell me sometimes it takes them years to try and get a loan out of them. But the situation is not good, and apparently now, I don't know if it was my intervention that triggered the audit, but the audit is in. Apparently managers have been suspended, sent on leave, and the ACB, according to what I'm being told, it appears to be virtually in receivership to the Agricultural Credit Board at this time.
That was voice of opposition spokesperson on finance, Audley Shaw, responding to questions at a meeting of the Public Administration and Appropriations Committee of Parliament earlier this week. Chief Accounting Officer in the Ministry of Agriculture, Donovan Stanberry, said the Agricultural Credit Board, which has regulatory oversight for the NPCB, had found that the PC banks had some issues. The audit was conducted following repeated calls from Shaw for an immediate investigation into the management of the institution. At the time, Shaw said the deposits of over 200,000 members of the institution were at risk as the NPCB was insolvent and loans amounting to $1 billion had been written off. Co-chair of the Economic Program Oversight Committee, EPOC, Richard Biles, says Jamaica continues to meet its targets under the 4-year economic management program with the IMF. Speaking at yesterday's press briefing, the chairman said following its review of the performance of critical indicators in the month of July, it has determined that the government is collecting more revenue and spending less. Biles says tax collection also continues to perform above projections. He says part of the reason for the improved collection is the implementation of a new tax regime, which saw the effective corporate tax rate move up to 17%, down from 25%. And the co-chair of the Economic Program Oversight Committee is urging the government not to drag out the calling of general elections. Speaking at the EPOC press briefing yesterday, Richard Biles acknowledged that it appears an election is imminent, as both major political parties have indicated that they intend to finalize their list of candidates for general elections by the end of this month. Biles says if the period of uncertainty continues, it could lead to a wait-and-see attitude on the part of businesses. Meanwhile, head of New Nation Coalition NNC Betty Ann Blaine is questioning a comment made by Member of Parliament Anthony Hilton that this election will be about issues and about the thinking man.
Well, I'm happy to hear that our politicians are in fact talking about issues and talking about the quote-unquote thinking and the election, because we've never encouraged that in this country. In fact, one of the things I'm curious about is what have we really done to cultivate an informed and educated electorate? Who is this thinking man? And when Minister Hilton says this should be a thinking man campaign or election, what does that really mean? What is being done to encourage people to begin to think about issues and not just the usual cass and dog war that we've been accustomed to in Jamaica?
Blaine says she is also concerned about how the politicians will shift their usual focus to certain issues.
Are the politicians going to conduct town hall meetings where people can begin to think and articulate their views and ideas about Jamaica, a new Jamaica, etc., etc.? I'm very curious. I suspect these are just words. I'm really not sure what we have ever done to encourage an election, a campaign where we focus on the issues, and there are critical issues. To me, the most important one is the economy.
Blaine says she has never seen times so hard in Jamaica.
I have never seen a time so hard. And the ordinary person on the street, I mean, who can go to supermarket? Who? I don't know how people are managing. I have no idea how people out there who are minimum wage earners, how on earth they buy food, send their children to school, pay rent and pay light bill. I have to give the ordinary Jamaican credit because I don't know how it's done.
That was voice of head of New Nation Coalition NNC, Betty Ann Blaine. Hilton had made the comments about the election focusing on issues and about the thinking man at a meeting in West St. Andrew over the weekend. The Nurses Association of Jamaica, NAJ, says it wants the matter of outstanding monies due to them in a reclassification exercise to be addressed as soon as possible. The comments follow yesterday's emergency meeting where the overdue funds and other items on their wage claim were discussed. President of the NAJ, Janet Corfar, says the nurses are not seeking more than 7%. However, she says they remain dissatisfied as the matter of overdue funds remains a sore issue. She says the outstanding monies were due from 2010 and the nurses are demanding that the matter be settled before a wage agreement can be signed. In regional news, the appeal court in Trinidad and Tobago will rule on September 23 whether or not to issue a stay on the near US $160,000 award handed down in favor of former Attorney General Anand Ramagan against the leader of the Independent Liberal Party ILP, Austin Jack Warner. Warner had filed an appeal against the award, which was handed down by Justice Robin Mohammed on July 29, who found that Ramlagan had been defamed in a statement Warner made at a 2013 political meeting. Justice Elise York Soo Han yesterday heard arguments in chambers from the attorneys representing the two parties after she deemed Warner's application for the stay urgent. Warner, who has since announced his resignation as ILP leader following the September 7 general election, had claimed on October 19, 2013 that Ramlagan was the owner of over 51 properties. In international news, Hungary's Prime Minister has warned that people who cross the country's border illegally will be arrested from next week. Viktor Orban said migrants entering the country in their thousands in past weeks have rebelled against his police force and order needs to be restored. Aid workers have been telling of what they describe as abysmal conditions for refugees at a camp on the Hungarian-Serbian border. Video footage has also emerged of people throwing bags of food at the camp. Hungary has struggled to cope with some 150,000 migrants that have crossed its borders so far this year en route from Greece to countries in northern and western Europe. 2 moments of silence have been held in New York at the exact time 14 years ago that the two planes struck the towers of the World Trade Center. Families of the victims of the 2001 and 1993 World Trade Center attacks read out their names at Ground Zero where the towers fell. The attacks killed nearly 3,000 people, including more than 2,700 in New York. A flag was raised at a ceremony at the Pentagon in Virginia where a third plane crashed, killing 184 people. In Shanksville, Pennsylvania, where a fourth plane crashed, Secretary of Homeland Security Jen Johnson is to speak. And that's news. Now for a look at the weather. There's a tropical wave east of Jamaica. The tropical wave is expected to move across the island later today and be west of Jamaica by tomorrow. In the forecast for this afternoon, expect widely scattered showers and thunderstorms across the mainly central and western parishes. Tonight will be partly cloudy. To end the news, a recap of the main points. Former Jamaica Labour Party JLP councillor charged with rape, Don Crary, and his alleged accomplice set to appear in court today. Mount Rosser toll increase is now in effect. JLP anxious to see the outcome of audit on the National People's Cooperative Bank, and Economic Program Oversight Committee urges government not to drag out the calling of general elections. And that's the midday news and weather package here on NewsTalk 93 FM. I'm Kayla Wright. Stand by for the news in the Jamaican language.
Broadcast Jamaican and NewsTalk 93 FM now give the news in the Jamaican language.
Good afternoon. My name is Khadeen Marshall and this is the news in the Jamaican language. Don Query, who are the one-time JLP councillor for the Castleton Division, and Shanique Williams are go to court today for answer some rape charge. Tom Tavares Finson, who are the lawyer who work for the two of them, say I'm going to ask the bail for the two of them when them go before the Carpet Area Resident Magistrate Court today. Police charge Query for rape and them charge Williams cause them say she know about what going on and cause she feel up the girl. Police lock up the two of them Tuesday gone. According to the police report, in 2013, Query and Williams carried a 15-year-old girl go to an apartment in St. Mary where them give her liquor and have sex with her. Them said the teenager tell her mother about what going on and she reported to the police. The police look into the case and lock up the two of them. The second smaddy will be in the pan camera and kill Robert Mendez, one car dealer and workplace in St. Angela last year get locked up. According to Assistant Commissioner Elan Powell, who are the head of the Criminal Investigation Branch, the man named Bertram Jenkins and them dip him from Canada yesterday. 43-year-old John Jarrett get locked up too for the killing of the businessman. Some group of vendors were never registered with the Kingston and St. Andrew Corporation, KSAC, never get for use to Crossroad Market yesterday because them name never depend on the registration list. The KSAC said them being forced to do this because a long time them tell the vendor them for register. But some of the vendor them being a custody them register with the KSAC and them still could go in at the market. News from foreign. One video camera being show some people at show some bag of food to some migrant and one Hungarian camp near the border with Serbia. Migrant are people who left them country for go live and work in our next country. The Austrian woman who been shoot the video said them treat the migrant them like animal. The Human Rights Watch emergency director said them treat the people them like pig in a pen. The people them in Hungary said them go look in a wagwan at the camp. My name is Khadeen Marshall and that's the news in the Jamaican language. Wait upon the weather. Now for the weather. One tropical wave the east of Jamaica. The tropical wave are going to move across the island later today and go the west part of the country by Saturday. Now for Jamaica all day weather. This afternoon, no rain going to fall in the central and west parish them. My name is Khadeen Marshall and that's the weather in the Jamaican language.
Broadcast Jamaican and NewsTalk 93 FM just give the news in the Jamaican language.
The Midday Sports Report is brought to you by NewsTalk 93 FM, life-changing sports radio.
Good afternoon. I am Mikhail Drama Johns with your Midday Sports Report here on NewsTalk 93 FM, and we begin with track and field. The 2015 Diamond League calendar comes to a close today in Brussels, Belgium, with a dozen Jamaicans set to go into action. Of that number, one stands a chance of copying a diamond trophy, that being Stephanie Ann McPherson. Currently second in the 400 meters with 10 points. She stands to claim the honors if she wins today's event, and American Francina McElroy finishes outside the top three. McElroy leads the diamond race with 16 points. Meanwhile, McPherson's compatriots Christine Day and Novlene Williams-Mills, as well as World Championships silver medalist Shawnee Miller of the Bahamas and American Natasha Hastings, will also face the starter. In other events, while outside of trophy contention, fast rising sprinter Elaine Thompson will clash with Daphne Shippers in the half-lap sprint, as well as American Allyson Felix. Those two competitors will be hunting the Diamond Trophy, while Thompson will be seeking revenge for being relegated to second in the event at the World Champs by Shippers. Felix leads with 10 points, just ahead of Geneva Tarma on 9, with the Shippers and Candice McGrone of America on 4 points with an outside chance. Sharon Simpson will also face the starter in that event. Meanwhile, former world record holder Safa Powell, fresh from his sub-10 win in Zagreb, once again will take on Justin Gatlin, Nesta Carter and Jimmy Vickor in the 100 meters. Gatlin, with 12 points, holds a 7-point advantage and is a safe bet to secure the Diamond Trophy. World Championships shot put bronze medalist Dane Richards should make his presence felt in his event today as well. And Nickel Ashmead will line up in the 200 meters. New national 400 meters record holder Rasheen McDonald and Pete Matthews are down for the men's 400 meters, and Kimberly Williams will be in the triple jump. And now to take a look at football. Manchester United had goalkeeper David De Gea sign an extension of a contract, and the new contract is one which should last 4 years. The 24-year-old Spain international almost joined Real Madrid on transfer deadline day, but the necessary paperwork was not submitted in time. De Gea's previous contract was set to expire next summer, while his new deal includes an option for a further year. And Chelsea goalkeeper Thibaut Courtois requires knee surgery and will be out for quite a long time, according to manager Jose Mourinho. The 23-year-old Belgium international damaged his medial ligaments during training on Wednesday. Mourinho confirmed the extent of the injury at his media briefing before Saturday's trip to Everton. And that's it for the Midday Sports Report here on NewsTalk 93 FM. I am Mikhail Drama Johns, wishing you a good afternoon.
That was your Midday Sports Report, brought to you by NewsTalk 93 FM, life-changing radio.